So, good morning everyone and welcome to the Digital Universe. Roy Morgan, over 70 years, has transformed ourselves many, many times. We've been operating for 70 years. We began before computers. We literally were counting and sorting questionnaires, hard copy questionnaires. And Roy Morgan, our founder, would decide that something was poll-worthy when it had been on the agenda for 2 weeks. So if something hadn't lasted 2 weeks, it wasn't a real issue. And he also had the view, and I think he was right, that it took people about 2 weeks to understand an issue and formulate a view. So that was what it was like. It was actually, there was a time when you had time to think, and that's how we did it. So things have obviously changed. Roy Morgan's invested in a major suite of business research. So now we're doing about 30,000 interviews with businesses, actually finding out how business is operating and the decisions they're making and where they're engaging and investing, etc. We've invested in an online public relations, sales and information channel, the Roy Morgan online store. We've invested in a leading edge real-time web and mobile device, the Reactor. So the worm has gone mobile. We've invested in a major data capture re-engineering phase with CAPI, that's computer-assisted personal interviewing. So that means literally the data, it doesn't matter where you are in the field, and we still interview all over Australia with real live people knocking on doors. The data is electronically coming back to us immediately. We've also invested in people, so bringing in people who do understand the digital space. So it's a really interesting combination of 70 years of history, and much of that history is still incredibly relevant today. Most of the people who were around 70 years ago aren't still with us, but they live with us. Many people have been with the company like 30 years, 25 years. Plus we've got this new range of people who are, helping us cross that boundary. And it's a very interesting continuum, and I think that's a really important point. So this morning, what we'd like to do is to share with you some of our research findings about things digital. So about the internet, about smartphones and about all of the other technology that we think of as the digital universe, and how they're changing consumers and business and the way those two things interact. But I'm making the point that we at Roy Morgan, in this case, are not just researchers. We're not just watching, measuring and monitoring. We're kind of like participant observers. We're part of it as well. It's happening to us at the same time as we're measuring and monitoring. And that's a really interesting experience. So just as an example, the information space, which is where we see ourselves, market research, information, that's where we live, has emerged as a really vibrant area of change. And there's probably 3 big things in that industry or that space. There's real-time news and information, not a 2-week lag while we get our thoughts together and see whether people have understood the concept and formed a view. It's real time all the time. Big data, that's all the information that's flying around as a result of people doing things online. There's data being captured everywhere. And then profiling, the ability to take that big data and understand more about people than has ever been understood before. So at first blush you look at that and think, well, maybe that's the end of Roy Morgan. You haven't got time to think about questions. Nobody needs data. There's so much of it flying around, and you can do profiling on the fly anyway. Maybe it's time we just shut up shop. Well, that thought didn't last long because we just don't do that. But really, we looked at it and said, so what's this all about? And realised that we were probably uniquely positioned to play in this space. Because if you think about it, that news, that real-time news, is essentially stuff that's publicly available. News these days, what goes in newspapers and on the news on television, is an aggregation or a re-aggregation of existing information. Roy Morgan has primary information. We're collecting information no one else has. So we have a very interesting space in that whole publishing, broadcasting area, particularly as these newspapers and television stations have to think about paywalls, about ways to commercialise information. Secondly, we have expertise in data integration. Market research information is a lot more complicated, a lot more muddly than any of the big data that's flying around. We've spent our life dealing with data, so we can play in that space. We can make sense of all of the big data. And then when it comes to profiling, there's nothing better than Asteroid to turn your profile around. So we can apply Asteroid to this rich data to create profiles like no one ever has before. So essentially what we've done is what I hope we'll be able to help you do, is to look at your business, what is it that really your business is about, and how does your business engage or change or evolve or find its space in this new digital world. So that's our story. We're in it like everyone else. Now, those of you who know Roy Morgan know that as well as collecting data, we actually have sort of industry specialisations, and we deal with things like automotive, with media, with banking, with sport, you know, everything. We have people who deal with those. And you know what? The internet, smartphones, the digital space is not something that's like another industry. It's something that every one of our people in any industry specialisation is now grappling with. They're working with their clients on how this is changing their industry and their business. I hope that we've actually shown you that the digital age is here and that it's touching every one of us as consumers and as people and in the businesses that we're operating in. But we hope that we've also shown you that with the kind of information that's available and the evidence and the data, it is possible to understand this new era. I mean, it doesn't have to be a kind of mystical, crazy thing. I have to tell you, we've just recently at Roy Morgan been looking at digital agencies, and we had 3 digital agency presentations. And those of you who know me will know that I'm probably not on that early adopter stage of the chart, and I thought, I need to understand this stuff. I'm coming to the presentations. Well, the first one truly was like a French immersion class. It was just like being dropped in there. The second one made sense. By the third time, it was all starting to make sense. So I think what we're seeing is, despite the fact that it's really easy to feel totally at sea with the new technology, the new ways people are doing things, at the end of the day, we're still talking about a person. We're still talking about a consumer who's making decisions, a consumer who's making choices. And we're still talking about businesses that can be in control of their own destiny. So, just for example, we heard about price comparison websites. And all of a sudden you think, oh my goodness, we've got to have a price comparison website. It's really important, everyone's price comparing. Take a step back, put your marketing hat on. We all know that there have always been price shoppers. In the telecommunication industry, they're called churn. It's a big chunk of the market that are constantly changing their plan just on price. In every industry, they've always been there. They can just do it better now with these price comparison sites. There have always, too, been the most valuable customers, the high-value, loyal customers, those who contribute most value to your brand, those that you can actually expect to continue dealing with you going forward into the future. They're a value on your balance sheet. Those people are not price sensitive. So the last thing you want to do is to engage them in a price war. The last thing you want to do is to be sending them price comparisons. You have to remember core marketing things, that those are the people that you want to have some kind of intimacy program. Perhaps it's a newsletter just for them. Perhaps it's your own website where they engage in a way that they want to engage. But we don't just learn a new thing and throw it at the market. We've also talked about online sales. And that's another really interesting one, isn't it? You sort of think, we've got to go online. We absolutely got to go online. Everyone's going online. Everybody's buying online. $22 billion, we've got to be online. The answer is, if your cosmetic brand customers are not buying online, or perhaps not yet buying online, you've got a choice. You definitely don't have to just put your brand up online because they won't even see it. But you could actually create a secondary brand if you wanted to go online. Or you could very strategically look at your like competitors and pick off their customers online. But again, you don't just have to go online. And finally, this is where sometimes it looks really easy and sometimes the most easy things are not actually the right thing to do. The Roy Morgan data shows that the most useful source of information, according to consumers, about health and fitness and illness products and things, is the internet. So we've got to market our medical products on the internet, right? The next piece of information that the Roy Morgan data shows you is that when you look at illnesses, the older you are, the more illnesses you have. So the target market for most health products, medical products and things like that is an older group. and they're much less likely to be online. So you need to think about that. Maybe it's not online. Then we look and say, well, hang on, how do these older people get their information? This is what any marketer will do. How does it all work? What's going on? How do people think? How do they decide? A lot of these older people, at the very older age, are actually using their children, their adult children. Younger friends become their advisors. They say, what do you think I should be doing about this? What do you know about blood pressure medication? So they become an important group, and those folk are online. Those folk are doing communities, they've got children of their own, they're very much online, so you can go online. But are they going to be joining a walking frame community? I don't think so. So it's probably not communities, even though they're communities. But they'll definitely be searching, won't they? They'll be looking, they'll be searching for their older parents' views. So search engine optimisation might be the way. So the key message of all of this is that there's a whole range of new opportunities, new ways to communicate, new ways your customers will be engaging with things. But at the end of the day, they're still people. Those businesses that survive and flourish in this new environment will be the ones that understand their customers better than anyone else, better than their competitors, and can actually provide not only the products and services, but the means of communication, the means of trading in a way that works for their customers. Thank you all. If there are questions, bring them on. If people need to leave, that's fine as well. But I hope you've enjoyed the digital universe.